Hello and welcome back to Football Index Moneyball. Today we have the next instalment in the Pick of the Day series. And for today's pick we have another wonder kid for you guys. This time it's a 20-year-old striker playing at one of the most exciting teams in Europe for young talent. He's currently being overshadowed by an index superstar who's attracting masses of attention on Twitter and in the mainstream media, which has left him somewhat of a bargain with some guaranteed exposure in the Champions League over the next couple of months, including an upcoming fixture against Liverpool. We're going to be taking a look at his blistering start to the season so far, where he's currently scoring at a rate of 1.33 goals per 90 in his domestic non-PB league. Then we'll be looking at how the transfer dealings of this club in the last few years bode well for the possibility of a move to a big European club in the very near future, and how being rested in a recent fixture has led to the price rise on this player being delayed temporarily, offering us a good chance to get in before the rush. And to finish off, we'll do the usual target profit analysis. For today's pick, we have some really interesting comparable players who all could have been considered an appealing pick in their own right. So I'll be discussing why I settled on this pick over the other three players who are all cheaper options. So make sure to stick with me to the end for that one. Also, at the end of the video, we've got some bonus content for you again with another player sale to try and fund this purchase. People always ask questions about why you sell players, when to sell players, so this one's a good example of one of the possible reasons that you would sell a player and one of the possible reasons to pick that player to sell. Just a reminder, if you do get any value or entertainment from the video and you want to help support the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified when new videos are posted. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, then you can search @IndexMoneyball. So for today's pick, the player we've gone for is Patson Daka. He's a 20-year-old Zambian striker playing for RB Salzburg, and he's currently priced at 83p. If we take a look at his 1 month graph, you can see there's been a lot of activity on this player already. And the interesting thing with Patson is there's a huge rise about a week ago, followed by a pretty significant dip almost immediately after. Now the reason for this is that Daka got 2 goals and an assist last weekend. Now this was actually a game that the index superstar I mentioned earlier, which is Erling Haaland, actually scored a hat-trick and got 2 assists. So I think that resulted in some of the more research-focused traders taking a note of Daka, and then there was also the added bonus that Salzburg were actually going to be playing their first Champions League game against Genk on Tuesday. A game which they went on to win 6-2, causing some huge price rises for all the players. Now luckily for us, Daka didn't actually start that game. He did come off the bench for 18 minutes at the end, but he didn't get any goals or assists, which led to the sell-off that you can see. I had planned on waiting to do this video in order to let the price drop a bit more before the next Champions League game, which is against Liverpool on October 2nd. But he actually started today over Haaland in the top of the table tie versus Lask and got another brace, causing a 4p bump in his price. So I thought I'd better get this video made and out to you before his price rises again, as people start looking further and further ahead at the fixture list for the teams. I'd expect to see an increase for Patson before the Liverpool game, and if he was to start the game or to get a goal, I'm fairly confident he would probably break the £1 barrier. So I've come over to Transfermarkt to take a look at Patson, and there's a couple of things I wanted to point out. First of all, in his trophies, you can see here he's already won the UEFA Youth League with the Salzburg youth team in 2017. That same season, he also won the African Cup of Nations under 20s, and then since then he's been promoted to the first team and they've won the Austrian Championship twice and the Austrian Cup once. And then here we've got the stats for this season, and you can see in the league so far, he's got 7 games, scored 6 goals and got 1 assist. And overall, he's played 9 games, got 7 goals and 3 assists. As I mentioned earlier, so far in the league, Patson's scoring at 1.33 goals per 90. And overall this season, he's running at 1.81 goals and assists per 90. And for his whole career, he's at 0.8 goals and assists per 90, which are all really good stats. To give you some context, Daniel Marlin, who you probably will all have seen on the index as he's been flying recently, he's currently scoring at 1.11 goals and assists per 90 for the season and 1.16 goals per 90 in the league. And over his full career, he's got a slightly better 0.83 goals and assists per 90, but that includes all his youth career, whereas Patson Daka's doesn't. Now I've just come over to RB Salzburg's transfer page on Transfermarkt, and I just wanted to show you a few of the names at the top of this list. You can see the players they've sold in the last year. There's some really big names for some fairly hefty transfer fees here. In the last few years, RB Salzburg have proven themselves to be an absolute beast when it comes to scouting young talent. If you wanted to put a team together of their combined current and past players, it would be pretty incredible. Featuring players like Upamecano, Haynes Wolf and Amadou Haidara at RB Leipzig, Sadio Mane and Naby Keita from Liverpool, to go along with the likes of Haaland, Benaid, Soboslai and Minamino, who are tearing up the league and announce themselves to the broader footballing world in Salzburg's recent 6-2 win over Genk in their first Champions League game since the 94-95 season. So the reason I wanted to cover this is that with Patson currently playing in a non-PB league, this would usually be considered a downside, but Salzburg have proven that when it comes to the talented youth, they almost always cash in as soon as they've made the name for themselves and move on to the next batch of wonder kids. The connections with RB Leipzig, who are doing really well this season, seem very strong in particular. I'm not sure if they're officially a feeder club to them, but they've signed 7 players from Salzburg since 2016 summer transfer window. So it's almost a non-issue, as you can be fairly confident that if Patson continues to perform the way he has so far, then he'll be moving in either January or at the end of the season. I think they'll hold on to him until the end of the season personally, as there's going to be a queue of teams waiting to sign 6 or 7 of the current players, so they may end up letting others go first, but who knows really. Now to finish off, we have the usual price target analysis. For my comparable players today, I actually had quite a lot to choose from, and 2 of the players I used in the comparison are actually players that I own and have considered for their own videos, which is Musa Barrow and Cucho Hernandez. In the end, I went for Patson, as I think that in the short term he'll be a much better pick, and in the long term I also think he seems to have the better stats and could become the better player in the end. Gaining some valuable experience playing senior football and hopefully getting some games in the Champions League this season. So the first comparison I chose was Musa Barrow, and this is a player I've owned for almost a year now, and his career goals and assists per 90 is pretty incredible at 1.22, but this is skewed with 39 of them coming in his youth career and only 19 at senior level. He also seems to be having a tough time breaking into the Atalanta team and hasn't started a game for them in 2019 yet. So in the end I thought Barrow, even though he's cheaper, wasn't as good a value as Daka. The next player is Cucho Hernandez, and this is a player I bought in summer and I'm currently losing a little bit on. I'm watching him closely, but he's been injured for the start of the season and he had a bit of a tough season with Huesca last season as he got relegated from La Liga. Plus his career goals and assists is quite a bit lower than Daka's and his price is only 10% cheaper. Then for Niane, I thought I had to consider him because of his much lower price, and to be fair I think his rate of goals and assists per 90 is pretty good for that price, but I think that he doesn't really have the potential that Daka does, and the difference in price on Football Index for a player who's good versus a player who's great is huge, so I think Daka was the clear winner here. For my price targets, I went for Kuna at RB Leipzig and Leo at AC Milan. Kuna's got a lower goals and assists per 90, but Leo actually has a higher at 0.9, albeit over a smaller sample size. But they're both not really getting games currently, so I think that if Daka gets some decent performances in the Champions League or gets linked with a transfer, then he should be easily able to reach Kuna or Leo's respective prices of £1.2 and £1.34. Then for my high target, I've gone for Daniel Marlon. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Marlon actually has a worse record than Daka this season, and on an almost identical record over his career. But some recent big performances have landed him in the spotlight, and his price has shown what can happen for a young player following a stint of solid performances. He does have the advantage of playing for Holland, so he is eligible for the Euro qualifier match days, and he's also might be eligible for the finals in summer. So this has to be considered when looking at his price as our high target. But to be honest, I expect Marlon to grow from this point steadily over the season until he gets a transfer. So all that leaves us with a target profit percentage of 22.89% for the low, 61.45% for the medium, and 175.9% for the high. As I said, Marlon's price might be a little bit ambitious due to his Euro qualifier eligibility, but it certainly isn't out of the realms of possibility. And even if you were to trim it a bit, you're still looking at a really impressive set of target profits. As you'll see in a minute in the bonus footage after the end video spiel, this is leading to me selling one of my long-term holds and one of my most profitable purchases on Football Index to fund my investment in Daka, which shows how excited I am about this player personally. Again, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment and subscribe. Also, if you know someone else who might like the video, then sharing with them would really help me out. There are links in the description for signing up to Football Index and Football Index Edge if you haven't already. And don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel for more strategy videos and the other picks of the day. Most picks are long-term holds with depressed prices for some reason or other, so often the picks can still offer the same value, if not better, a few weeks after. And the research methods and reasoning can help if you're new to the index and want to learn to analyse your own players. Thanks for watching, good luck on the index. So the player I'm going to be selling today is Lorenzo Pellegrini. We can see here that I bought him actually over a year ago now, in September. I just bought 101 before the share split, which was left me with 303 shares currently. So you can see here, I got the 303 shares and the average price worked out at 40p after the share split. He's currently trading at £1.34, which means I'm up 235% on this purchase. It's one of the first purchases I made when I started on the index, or within a couple of months anyway. And this is actually a player that I just bought purely because of Football Manager. I bought him on Football Manager and he was really good, so that was one of the methods I used to use to find my players when I first started. This isn't really a player that I want to sell, but when you do find a player like Patson Daka that seems to be showing the possibility of a really big profit, I don't really see 175% possible profit in Lorenzo Pellegrini unless he was to sign for United or Man City or Real Madrid or something like that, which isn't too unlikely. I know United have been linked with him in the past, but I just think out of the two, and this is the player that I picked that I thought I'd be able to sell without having to lose too much money on the spread or miss out on the price for Patson Daka due to having to wait too long in the queue.